Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton. We're without Gerry Hamilton today. He's busy doing some.
We're gonna get him around 8:45. I think he's on the.
Gonna be a little late this morning, but that's all right. Well, Bobby, we got a lot to talk about this morning. Brian Erwin, of course, will be joining us here in just a little bit. But I wanted to get your thoughts. We're a little less than 36 hours away from kickoff. So I'm curious what you're feeling right now, what you're thinking, all that good stuff.
I got into Austin yesterday morning, Blake, and right when I got off the plane yesterday, there literally was a stream of about 40 to 50 Georgia fans walking through the airport at the same time. From the Uber driver yesterday to the bartender last night, to people in between all day long downtown. I was in some meetings. Everybody's talking about Texas, Georgia this weekend in Austin. The feel is palpable. This is a huge game. There's no doubt about it. It's two heavyweights of college football right now. The Longhorns are officially in that category. There's no two ways about it, Blake. And right now, I think that this is as big a game that has been in DKR in quite some time. The fans know it. Georgia knows it. The coaches and players know it. We were talking to Bert Auburn a little bit last night on our live stream, the Texas kicker. Everybody gets it, man. This is a big one. And in response to that, I want y'all to see this. I rarely break out this sweatshirt because it's 15 years old, right? Actually, I guess almost 20 now. It's the 2005 National Championship Rose Bowl shirt. I literally got the minute after the final score by Vince Young. I don't break this out often. It has to be cooler weather, obviously, but it also has to be a big game, and that's what happens. That's what today or tomorrow is going to be in Austin. There's no two ways about it. The game kicks off at 6:30. Texas now 5.5 point favorites over Georgia. The weather should be great. Clear skies and just absolutely gorgeous fall day in Austin. And the number 5 Georgia Bulldogs are coming calling. And I don't know what else to say here other than I'm jacked about it. I think the entire city of Austin and Longhorn Nation are jacked about it. You think about it, Blake, and we have not seen a game like this in Austin, midseason conference game, this meaningful. And I'm trying to think if there's been 30 years of I'm 55 and I started school when I was 17. So 38 years. I don't know if there's been a in-season game that didn't involve A&M at home that was this big. I just don't see it. I don't remember it. Houston was a big game in 91 or 92. I can't remember the date.
Ohio State
was early season, though.
Yeah.
Conference. You didn't really know what those two teams. I mean, this is a heavyweight. This is the thriller in Manila.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and the other thing with Ohio State is Texas just had lost Vince Young coming off the national championship, so everyone was still kind of riding that high, as well. So, yeah, no doubt about it, Bobby. It is huge. Yep. Definitely big. Well, hey, I wanted to bring up the latest availability report here from the SEC and Texas with 5 players out. Of course, we were, kind of nothing unexpected, I guess you could say, since we saw this on Thursday. Not much has changed.
Well, there's 2 big moves here. If you're really keeping track of this, that is Isaiah Bond moved from questionable to probable for the Longhorns. The Longhorns' leading receiver this year has moved up from questionable to probable. Nothing changed in the out category. And then on the Georgia side, there has been one movement of note too. Jared Wilson, a former starting offensive lineman for them, has gone from questionable to probable, which should reinforce their offensive line. Tate Ratledge, their preseason All-American guard, is remaining at questionable. So those things, little nuances there. I know Texas fans will all know about Isaiah Bond and his impact on the Longhorns, but Jared Wilson is a key component of that Georgia offensive line. They've been without for a couple of weeks. So we'll see if he actually makes it, but he's now listed. He's gone up from questionable to probable on this latest one that was released around 7:00 last night.
There you go. All right, Bobby, before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and let you tell everybody out there about BKCW.
Yeah, I love the guys at BKCW. We appreciate what they've done for us at On Texas Football. Today's show being brought to you by BKCW Business Insurance. Did your business have a frustrating insurance or employee benefits renewal? Most likely you didn't hear from your agent all year, and then right before it was time to renew, your agent delivered the bad news of a rate increase with no time to look for other options. When this happens, the agent is providing no value, and you're stuck in what we call the insurance trap. Let BKCW take you out of the insurance trap, where you're not just getting price quoting, but actual risk management consulting, operating out of Austin headquarters and owned by a UT grad. BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's weak spots, design a plan, execute, and monitor your situation throughout the year so you get the best out of your insurance dollar and can effectively manage your company's risk and employee benefits. Get started with a free risk assessment at bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw to get started and get the help you deserve. 512-250-5055. Thanks to BKCW Business Insurance.
And Bobby, I know we can get into this a little bit deeper when Gerry gets here, recruiting wise. You know, on your Friday post this morning over at ontexasfootball.com, you said Texas expects around 115 prospects for this game. Can you ever remember a game where they even had close to that number? Was the Alabama game close to that number?
You know, they've had that number, certainly had, and multiple times throughout the years, by the way. Never for this big a game. I mean, even the Alabama game, while it was important and announced kind of Texas's decision to kind of compete at that level. I mean, with Steve Sarkisian, I really thought they did a nice job of showing that Texas could be a big time team in that game 2 years ago. They weren't necessarily there yet, right? And that's where I'm in that scenario, Blake, where I think that they've had this level of number of recruits. They haven't had the quality of recruits, in my opinion. And that is where this is at right now. Gerry Hamilton joining us just in time to talk recruiting. Gerry, we were talking about how Texas has had this number of recruits at a game before, but not this high of quality. There have been some last-minute changes, though, to the list. Gerry, you can tell folks about that.
Yeah, I put out yesterday on ontexasfootball.com, for those that may have missed that. Kevin Wynn's going to come in November. This is a visit where they want both parents on campus. So that visit's going to be in November. His father could not make the trip. His father could not make the official visit in June. So that's one of the hangups with that recruitment. Walter Mathis Jr., same thing, going to come in November, later in November, after the storms in Savannah. A couple other things have gone on there around some of the union strike around. A couple of things have gone on there. So that visit's been bumped back to November as well, the LSU commitment. So Texas will have to keep working on those guys, get them to campus next month. Joseph Mbaktu, Justice Terry still remain visiting. Malcolm Simpson, the defensive lineman coming to Nebraska from Hitchcock, still visiting this weekend. So number of still 50 plus 5-star and 4-star prospects that are scheduled to be on campus in the 25, 26, and 27 classes. And then I'll also say this. I think there are 2 other prospects committed elsewhere. There's at least a 50-50 chance they're going to show up Saturday. Now, if I thought it was 90 or 100% chance, I would go with it. I think it's 50-50. So I want to wait a little bit longer because we're sitting there at 8:20 on Friday morning and things change really quickly. So I do think there will be at least 2 other guys that are likely to show up that are committed elsewhere, and that's 2025 guys. The 2026 list, I actually made a post on TexasFootball.com this morning about the list of 2026 guys. If Texas just won some of their top targets off that list, they already have a top 10 class just with that list of visitors. And that's not all of them. That's just some of the top guys. So in my years covering this, for a Texas home game, when you combine multiple classes, it's going to be the most talented the visitors, the prospect section's been at a Texas football game, period. I mean, that's just where things are at. About 115 prospects expected, and that's 25, 26, 27, and even some really top 28 kids are scheduled to be in. So this is a big visitors list. Now, all those guys aren't necessarily offer guys, but this is an invite game from Texas. This isn't just a show up game at the same time.
Yeah, that's the point that I was trying to make in my post this morning on Texas football, Gerry. Look, Texas is going to toy with a top 5 class again this year. That's been where Steve Sarkisian has historically been during his time at Texas. And he's done very well, obviously, in getting that going. The other piece I would say is you want to start messing with a number 1 class, domino on some of these guys that are coming in for the 2026 group.
Yeah,
that's Texas has a chance to take yet another step up in that category of recruiting. Do you agree with that right now, Gerry, that this is almost setting the stage for, yes, a top 5 class, but they start dominoing on some of these guys, it puts them in even a higher category potentially.
Yeah,
just minutely, sure. But still, I mean,
100%. To your point, Bobby. So in 2025, let's just say, because Texas leads for Javion Hilson and Michael Terry, let's just say Texas closed those recruitments out. We're playing the if game. If they did that, they're signing a top 4 class, maybe number 3, period. But to your point, what they're doing back-to-back seasons here, now you got to go finish it off, get back in the playoff. But if they do that, no matter the outcome in the playoff, this program is ascending multiple years in a row. If you make a college football playoff, the last 4 team, and then the first 12 team, and you already won at Michigan after winning at Bama, that's a program that's ascending. And just think of all the out-of-state kids that are scheduled to be in this weekend. I mean, there's a defensive lineman, Noah Clark, coming in from Durham, North Carolina. That doesn't happen a year ago, period. No chance. I mean, and you have guys from Florida. You have multiple guys from Georgia in 2026. I mean, 5-star Tyler Atkinson, the linebacker from Grayson. We played his huddle on here before. He's a one-man wrecking crew that can play in space. If Texas isn't in the SEC and they don't beat Bama last year and they don't make the playoffs, Texas isn't in the same position there. It's a short choice is really good, but even a really good recruiter can only do so much on a 7-6 or 8-5 team. So that's where we're at with Texas recruiting right now. And I wrote this morning. Look, if Texas beats Georgia, that it just continues to go to another level. And when I mean that 26, 27 and beyond with these kids. 2025, all Texas has to do, even if they lose to Georgia, as long as they make the playoffs, the trajectory is still where it needs to be. I mean, so Texas has arrived on the national scene. They're now a national recruiting program that does value their in-state recruits at the same time. But they're going to be able to, they just get more kids on campus. And I'm a broken record on this, but I think it's so important because it's the advantage Nick Saban had when he won at the highest level. When you win as much as Nick Saban did, you can get kids to campus, as many kids to campus as you want, and you can get them to campus multiple times. And all that allows you to do is make stronger and stronger and stronger evaluations. You see the huddle tape. The coaches go see the guys in person. They know what the talent level is. Now you get all these kids on campus and you can evaluate the fit, because the most difficult thing to do, I think, in sports on any level in the college sports is collecting talent versus assembling the best team you can. And the more you win, the more ability you have to just collect shiny toys. But all those shiny toys don't always impact your winning as much. So that's just the great thing about where Texas is their evaluation process and keep going to the next level because they have the ability to get all these kids on campus now.
Good stuff. All right, guys, we're going to bring Brian Erwin in just a second. But, Bobby, before we do that, go ahead and let everybody know about one of our new sponsors, one of your favorite sponsors, Tecovas.
Yeah, I love this. We'd like to welcome new sponsor Tecovas to On Texas Football. Appreciate them being a part of the show. And, these are boots that are just absolutely fantastic. If you've ever put them on your feet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Texans know that anywhere worth going is worth going in good boots. Tecovas are handcrafted with every stitch on point. Tecovas boots are made for a good time and a long time. I love the fact that they're already broken in for comfort right out of the box. You don't have to worry about, taking 3 or 4 wears before you actually get going. Tecovas also makes it easy for anyone to find their favorite boot on their website with all kinds of sizes and styles. Tecovas are simply the best boot around. I really like that they can either be daily boots or you can feel dressed up with them. Right now, get 10% off at tecovas.com/Texas football when you sign up for email and text. That's 10% off at tecovas.com/Texas football. With Tecovas Best in the West guarantee, you also get free returns and exchanges for 30 days. So if you're not satisfied, that is their policy, the Best in the West guarantee. Tecovas.com/Texas football. See their site for details. Tecovas, point your toes west. All right, let's talk. Let's bring in.
Hey, Bobby, yes. Real quick. Can I do the introduction on this one? Because I got something to say about Coach Erwin.
You go for it. Let's bring him in. And he's like trying to muffle his ears.
No. So for those that don't know, Steve Van Meter, the former head coach at Friendswood, very successful coach in his own right. He played for my dad when my dad was at Friendswood and they won state in 73. But Coach Van and I have known each other for years. Obviously, I went to Friendswood. And we were at the Hitchcock game together a few weeks ago. And I told Coach Van that Coach Erwin was part of On Texas Football. And he said, that's the best football coach I ever went up against in high school.
Oh, man.
So Coach Erwin, there's an intro for you.
That's awesome. I love Coach Van Meter. We had some battles, and I had a ton of respect for him too. We absolutely had some awesome battles. So what a great man and great times back then.
He said you had the most well-coached team he went up against in high school football that he went up against. So congrats to you on that.
Well, thank you very much. I miss seeing you, Gerry, on a weekly or monthly basis when you used to come down to Lamarck all the time, and we used to talk Texas football and try to get a kid or two to Texas. But
there you go.
Appreciate it.
Brian, I tell you what, thanks for joining us on this Friday morning. We talked on lunch with the coach on Tuesday with Coach Shipley and yourself about a lot of different pieces of the puzzle here for this game. What are a couple of underlying ones for you?
Well, there were a couple of things that we didn't talk about that I did want to mention that I think are big going into this game, and one of them is pre-snap penalties. Last week we cleaned that up a ton. I don't think we had one, and that's the first game I can remember in a long time we didn't have a bunch of pre-snap penalties. So whatever we've done there to clean that up is fantastic. We've got to be clean there. It's a home game. We don't need them. I remember 2 years ago when we had a chance to beat Alabama at home, they had a ton of pre-snap penalties, especially early in the game, and it was because of the crowd. Our crowd's got to be big time, loud, calls them into some pre-snap penalties. We've got to stay clean with the pre-snap penalties and not get behind the chains. So, not getting behind the chains, especially with pre-snap penalties. There's a number of ways you can get behind the chains, but that's the worst one because that's self-inflicted. And if we can get them behind the chains with some crowd noise and some pre-snap things, then that would be fantastic. Another thing I want to touch on that I didn't get a chance to talk on, but I heard Rod Babers talk about this, and I'm like, man, he nailed it. He nailed it, and that's with our running game. And when we committed to the zone, the inside zone and the outside zone stretch, and got away from all the gap scheme stuff and the pin pull stuff that we were trying to do early in the game against Oklahoma, we went back exclusively to the stretch and the inside zone. That's when things started clicking. Now, did that have to do with the front we were running the gap scheme against or the pin pull scheme against? Possibly, but I still think that's our strength. Keep it simple, stupid with the run game. Georgia's Georgia. It's going to be tough sledding in there, but we can't concede it. We've got to stick and try to establish the run game, much like we did at Alabama last year. It was nothing for 3 quarters, and all of a sudden the dam broke. And we started running the football in the 4th quarter. So I think it's going to be similar to that. I hope that we can big time commit to the inside zone, outside zone, and let our backs go.
Brian, what do you think about the Texas defense in this game? They're going to be facing the best quarterback they've faced, the best offense they've faced this year. We talked about whether or not the Texas pass rush is legit, whether or not the Texas secondary is legit. What are your thoughts on that?
The little bit I've seen Georgia, I don't think we're going to be in a spy situation. We've got to worry about him killing us with his legs. So I think that's a plus. The biggest thing that's going to factor, I think, into this game is can we pressure him with 4 and get it done with 4. And we like our guys up front. We like our interior guys getting a push. We like our edge guys doing what they're doing. Man, those guys are playing fast. Trey Moore, he's another guy that I thought stood out last week. Finally, he showed up a bunch. And then, Barron Sorrell and Colin Simmons and Ethan Burke, Vasher showed up a little bit. And so I think if we can get pressure with 4 and affect him with our front 4 and then be able to play maximum in coverage, that's going to be a huge key for us.
Brian, you think about this game. You and I we went to school at Texas at the same time. Can you recall, and I was mentioning this and we talked about it all week, I can't recall a midseason conference game other than maybe Texas versus Houston in like 90 or 91 in 30 plus years, dude, of this stuff. I mean, they've had some big ones with Texas Tech.
Yeah.
But can you recall a midseason conference game like this?
No, that Houston one was large. That was a lot of fun. TCU game, the night game, that was a big one that we didn't get it done. We didn't play well. TCU did. But so that probably was the most recent one that I can remember. It was TCU at home at night.
Hey, Coach, offensive lines in this game. You talked about Texas pressuring with 4 against Georgia, whose strength's been pass pro this year versus run blocking, but they play with stacked boxes against stacked boxes. Texas offensive line, Michigan high-level game, Oklahoma high-level game. Obviously, that's going to set the tables for Quinn and Sark with how this offense develops the pass routes. Can you speak to that, the importance of on both sides this week, offensive lines with pocket passing quarterbacks with longer developing plays that they would like to run?
Yeah, I think, we like our offensive line. They're veteran. They've kept Quinn, they've kept Arch clean all year long, in my opinion. They've done a great job. I think building on Quinn's strengths, establish the run game, throw the RPOs because he's fantastic with those now. His release has gotten a lot quicker this year, getting the RPO stuff out. And then the hard play action, and we didn't do it a whole lot last week, but letting him, turn around, fake that thing to the pistol back, turn his back to the defense, much like you do when you're under center, and then let him come out of that. And he's got read 1, read 2 to check down. In the straight drop back game, right now, that's not where Quinn feels the most comfortable. And when we do straight drop back, that's where Quinn's got to execute this week with hanging in the pocket and working his progressions, gap escaping where he needs to, not feeling any ghost pressure that's not there, and just getting the football into our playmakers' hands, because that's the name of the game. We got a ton of speed, ton of playmakers, and we got to get the ball spread out horizontally and vertically into their hands.
Hey, Coach, one more thing for me. Leonga Lafau's presence. What is it you like about him that you've seen from him at that linebacker? What does that give Nansen and PK the ability to do with Anthony Hill in your eyes?
He will strike you. That guy, I'm telling you, I love him. I talked about him on lunch with the coach. I thought the moment he struck that back on that power read play when they handed it off and struck him with 6 minutes and 30 seconds to go in the second quarter, I thought the game was over. He will strike you. He's a fantastic tackler. He's great in space. When him and Anthony Hill are on the field at the same time, they're a dynamic duo. So, golly, that guy is good. I just love him. He's physical. He's rangy. He's got a lot of agility, and probably can rush the passer as well from the inside linebacker spot.
Hey, Brian, I want to finish with this because you mentioned as one of the keys to victory is can Texas get after him with just 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how Lee Chadwell and I talked at the Open about how, I mean, look, I'm in Austin right now and it's buzzing. I mean, the atmosphere, when the atmosphere is buzzing before a game and you can kind of walk, it's buzzing right now. No doubt about it. From the airport to the Uber driver to the tavern last night. I mean, I was all of it. And get your question on this from Lee Chadwell. He actually asked me and Gerry, but I'm going to ask you it. If the crowd is loud and Georgia has to go to a silent count, could you see Colin Simmons, with the way he gets off the ball, help the Longhorns? Go into a silent count. If the Horns push that, you think that could really help the Texas D?
Heck yeah, because his get off is going to be the same as the offensive tackles. He's going to have better vision on the football. The offensive tackle's having a periphet out of one eye or the other. And then Colin Simmons, he's got both eyes on the football. And so he can also read, fingers and hand pressure and all that stuff. So his get off, along with all the edge guys, even the interior guys, their get off is going to be as good or better than the offensive line's get off.
If it's loud like that, you have to go to a silent.
It's got to be loud to win this game. We've got to have home field advantage is critical, especially in the SEC. That's the only. I'm not saying the only way we're going to win the game, but we need our advantage to be an advantage.
Yep, there, good stuff. All right, Brian. I know you got other stuff to do this morning. We appreciate you so much, buddy. You take care and have a good day. And I'll talk to you on later this weekend. Hopefully, I'm getting text from you during the middle of the game. Did you see that?
No doubt. Let's get after their butt. Hook them.
All right, good one. Take care, Brian. Good to see you, man.
You guys.
Thanks. You have a good day. Good weekend. Brian Erwin, always a pleasure to visit with Brian. Former 2-time state championship high school coach at Lamar. Was a high school coach, longtime high school coach. At one time, Gerry, Coach Erwin was the youngest head high school coach in the state of Texas back in the day. That's
why I wanted to say that, because for a lot of our chat, they may not be familiar with Brian's high school coaching career. So when I ran into Coach Van Meter and we were talking about it, he was just like, let people know that guy was the best coach I went up against. Just that's high praise from somebody who won well in 150 plus games at Friendswood High School, and went to the state semis and went against Lake Travis and Chad Morris and those guys, and a number of those playoffs games, Don Hooks against West Orange. He said that was the most sound team he went up against.
There's K Stu saying Chris Stewart. I wonder if there's any relation there. Chris Stewart, the young man out of Pearland's Shadow Creek, says he's freaking ready, fellas. Chris, obviously a commitment and a wide receiver out of Shadow Creek, already pledged.
Having a heck of a year
in the 26 class, Gerry.
Yeah, having a heck of a year. One thing about Chris, I was out of the practice 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's got that ability to accelerate through the football, Bobby. You would really like to watch him in person. You can see it some on tape, but he can really accelerate through the route and through the football. And he has that ability to accelerate and still look and find the football and adjust his body to a football. Really good trait there. Having a quality season for Shadow Creek there. First year, they're under a new head coach at Shadow Creek, but having a really good junior year. Steve Sarkeesian was by the school during the off week for Texas. That same day he went to Hitchcock and everywhere else. And Chris Stewart's having a really good year. Really, really good football player.
So the way you describe that is the way I try to describe Adonai Mitchell when I saw him in practice. There are certain guys that have good speed and kind of run the same pace the whole route. And there are guys that can have that little extra gear at the end that help create some space. So I in my mind's eye, I can hear what you're describing and see what you're describing, Gerry.
All right, guys, before we move on here, I need to tell everybody about Factor. And sweater weather pairs perfectly with savory fall foods, but with your busy schedule, sometimes it's hard to eat the way that you would like to. That's where Factor comes in. Their chefs do the shopping, they do the chopping, and they bring you fresh, never frozen, fully cooked meals right to your doorstep. All you have to do is heat and eat. And when it comes to meals, everyone wants the same thing: options. That's why Factor offers 35 wholesome meals every week, so you'll always find something that you love that'll suit your lifestyle. Of course, there's more to Factor than just lunches and dinners as well. From easy breakfast and smoothies to those midnight snacks that maybe you're trying to hide from your spouse, Factor has over 60 plus add-ons to keep you fueled and focused 24/7. And with a ton of flavors, you're never going to get bored. I promise, once you try it, you will be hooked. Head to factormeals.com/Texas50. Use promo code Texas50. They're going to give you 50% off your first box plus 20% off the following month. That's code Texas50 at factormeals.com/Texas50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. Thank you for sponsoring Factor. All right, guys, we got some super chats that we need to knock out. Longhorn Frenzy 1, thank you, as always. He says, as the late Al Davis said, just win, baby. Whether it's by 1 or 100, just win. Hook 'em.
Well said. In Gerry, and I know you and I talked about this last night. We did a deal over at the Hole in the Wall with the Hargrove Roofing guys. We appreciate their sponsorship. That the thing is, look, it doesn't matter if Texas wins by 11, which CJ Vogel is predicting right now, or Texas wins by 1. The key in this game is to end up 7-0. They could do that and keep pushing forward with this season. It gives them an even greater margin of error for the last 5 games. Texas loses this game, that margin of error is almost out the window. So that is what is going on here. And so I agree with Longhorn Frenzy. Just win, baby. That's what this one's all about tomorrow.
And we got another one here. Go ahead, Gerry. Sorry.
I was say I finally decided on my score 30-29. I mean, like, I don't the 150, and I may be giving Georgia credit and saying they're going to play like Georgia. They haven't played like the Georgia we've been accustomed to seeing. But whether you win by 1 or 100 matter in the ball game.
All right. Our next super chat comes from Henry James BC. And Henry James asked, was Kirby Smart worst decision as a head coach, letting boosters buy the player cars or hiring Mike Bobo? Of course, a lot of Georgia fans aren't real thrilled with Bobo's offense at the moment.
Yeah, it's been okay of late, to be honest with you, but it's not Todd Monken is the problem, in my opinion. And that's really been the issue overall for them. Bobo and Smart and Will Muschamp were all roommates / suite mates in college, though. So, he did hire his friend, but Bobo was also the offensive coordinator for Georgia in the Mark Richt regime during that time. So he has a lot of experience calling plays at a high level. Doesn't mean he's always perfect, but I think he's actually gotten better over time. Will he be able to match wits and personnel with Steve Sarkisian tomorrow? We'll see. Obviously, Pete Kwiatkowski has a lot of history calling defenses at a high level. So I think that the matchup of coaches here is actually one of the stronger ones you'll see for Texas, because Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp, and Glenn Schumann on defense are as good as it gets in college football. They really are. Steve Sarkisian is as good as it gets on offense. So we'll see what happens with PK versus Mike Bobo, PK and Johnny Nansen against Mike Bobo tomorrow.
Our next super chat's for you, Gerry, from Michael Schuler. Thank you, Michael. He says, over under 1.5 commit announcements after the game tomorrow.
Announcements. I like let's say the week after the game, from Saturday to the week after the game, I'll go over.
There you go.
With a win.
Oh, you had to qualify it. You had to qualify it. We just wanted to tell us too.
I can tell you this. There's more than 1.5 silence right now. When will they go public? We'll see.
Yeah. And there may be a third from what we're hearing, by the way. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I got
Thought we're going to get out of that one. Super chat from Mike Gosnell. Thank you, Mike. He says, where does Texas hold the advantage over Georgia? Is it maybe the Texas wideouts versus the Georgia secondary? Maybe Sark's offensive play calling versus Kirby's defense? Does Kirby try to mask coverages like OU? Or are they more straight up?
No, they mask. They'll mask a 3 high, but it's not really a 3 high. They give a lot of looks pre-snap. I don't think you can be successful on the level that they are without giving a lot of looks pre-snap and a lot of simulated pressures, as Rod calls it. They do a lot pre-snap. Now when the ball snap, we had Brooks Austin on yesterday, the Film Guy Network, and they've been in a lot of 2 high this year after the ball snap, but they give you a different looks pre-snap for sure.
Yeah, they're trying to tackle you and get you to the ground.
Yeah.
And reduce run after catch. That's why they play a lot of 2 high. Plus, they don't want to get beat for the big play. I will say this. They don't mask as much as Oklahoma.
No doubt.
And I will add this. They don't have as experienced a defense as Oklahoma. And that's part of the reason why. Oklahoma has a very experienced defense, and Brent Venables coaches those guys up to be able to mask a lot of what they do. Sometimes there are deficiencies there at OU that talent-wise you don't necessarily have at a place like Georgia. So there's all of that. I do think that if I were to give if I were to give Texas an advantage, I do think Sark's offense is really hard to compete with. And that's not a knock against any of the Georgia staff. I just think Steve Sarkisian may be the best offense coordinator in college football. And rules right now are made for offenses over defenses. So if Texas has that, I think it's that. And I hope another big one is the Texas offensive line in pass protection versus the Georgia defensive front in pass protection. Those are my hopes, the 2 biggest changes.
Hey, by the way, we've had some Will Muschamp talk in the chat, and I just for those that don't know on Will, he is no longer an on-the-field coach this year. There's a picture of him in a Vanderbilt shirt at the Vanderbilt. I don't know if it was Kentucky game last weekend, maybe. But Will's son, oldest son, plays at Vanderbilt. So he's gone step back into more of an advisory role, meaning now he comes in the office 3 days a week, watches film, helps build a game plan, but he's not there to help execute it on game days anymore. He is most of the time, and he is at Vanderbilt on Saturdays. Now, I'm not saying he won't be in Austin this Saturday, but there more Saturdays than not, he is not on the field in Athens or around the program. He's actually in Nashville or wherever Vanderbilt's playing.
Here's a good one, guys, for us. And I'm kind of in this category, to be honest. Is it as simple as good Quinn, Texas wins, bad Quinn, Texas loses? It is for me. I don't think so. Good Quinn wins. Yes, I would say that's a 75% chance. Okay. It all depends how Georgia also plays and Carson back, because he could potentially play great, right? And so good isn't necessarily enough. But I do think good Quinn, 75% chance Texas wins. Bad Quinn, 75% chance Texas loses. That's my point for you, for Ryan, about where I think I come out on that is how much he will determine his productivity and acumen in this game will rely on a Texas win versus a loss.
And our next question comes from the Joe Natural. And yesterday, some big bad news, I guess, if you're a Georgia fan. They lost one of their commits, and it wasn't just any commit as a 5-star quarterback. But Joe Natural says Georgia lost 2 5-star quarterback commits in the last 2 cycles. But what does that mean, Gerry?
Well, Jaden Rashada transferred in. So Dylan Raiola flipped to Nebraska so he could go in and play right away, right, and start. And that's worked out very well for him versus coming in and sitting a year behind Carson Beck. Jaden Rashada, who was ranked a very high 5-star or very high 4-star or low 5-star, I can't remember which one, depending on your service that you look at with all that stuff, transferred from Arizona State to Georgia. So it's kind of like a trade. So Rashada's in the program for a year after playing some at Arizona State before an injury. Jared Curtis was an interesting one there. Tennessee family. From what I remember when Texas offered him, doing some research on him in the state of Tennessee. Where does that mean he's going to end up? I don't know. But I think that one stings a little bit because it's so early in your 26 class. And a lot of other 26 quarterbacks have committed elsewhere that would have been at the top of Georgia's list. That's why that one hurts a little bit. Adia Bell, Texas. I mean, you could just go down the list. A&M got a really good quarterback commitment out west yesterday, by the way, guys, in 26. So a lot of these 26 quarterbacks are off the board. So now if you want a 26 quarterback in your Georgia, unless you stay in the fight for Curtis, but how many times does the guy come back to where he decommitted from? Not very often. That means you're going to have to try to go flip somebody committed elsewhere that you really liked before.
And then Roger G says, on Texas football, how early should I get to campus for college game day? I can tell you when I went in 2008 for the Missouri game, like we were there about 5:15 that morning.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Holy cow.
And by then, like there was already a ton of people.
So the question is, how early is too early? Basically, there was already a ton of people at 5:15 in the morning. That's a long day now.
Yeah, it was a very long day.
Wow. Good stuff, Blake.
That
tells you how committed Blake is, by the way. Blake's a committed guy now.
I'm interested to see what the crowd's like tomorrow morning since it's a night game.
Yeah. Well, Missouri was a night game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it was a long, long day. And I didn't have a voice for like 2 weeks afterwards either. So
we're getting some 5 a.m.s in the chat. So
yeah, I'm telling you, get there early if you're planning on going to game day tomorrow. I would definitely, if you don't want to be at the very back of the crowd, if you want a chance for you or your sign or whatever to be seen on TV, earlier the better.
That's important, look, because that's before Chick-fil-A opens, which means you got to go to Chick-fil-A later today and put it in the fridge and warm it up at 4:30 in the morning.
You and that Chick-fil-A. Oh, man. All right, guys, before we move on here, I need to let everybody out there know about BetterHelp. And this episode of On Texas Football is brought to you by the good folks at BetterHelp. And there's a lot of helpful apps out there, but it'd be difficult for any of them to be more useful than BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is an app that helps those in need find the help that they deserve. Maybe you're having personal issues that you just can't figure out. Maybe you've experienced major trauma in the past or recently lost a loved one. Maybe you get caught up comparing yourself to someone else. Whatever the case may be, if you're considering beginning therapy as an option, you'll want to check out BetterHelp.com. BetterHelp is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, designed to be flexible, and it's designed to suit your schedule. So no matter what your own previous experience with therapy is, check out BetterHelp.com today. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/OnTexas to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/OnTexas for 10% off. And we've had some questions about what's going on this weekend as far as On Texas football goes, such as Nelson. Where's On Texas football tailgating tomorrow? Bobby,
I'll have Blake put the link in there. They are asking for folks to buy tickets for tomorrow's event because it's going to be fairly large with the number of people. They've added another tent for us as well. The folks at Duck Camp also are going to be out there providing refreshments for everyone as well. We've got some food coming, a lot of the whole brisket, ribs, got a lot of stuff coming Thanks to our friends over at Surly Horns. And then also Duck Camp's giving away a $250 gift certificate, or excuse me, $200 gift certificate, as well as a hat to some lucky person tomorrow. But me and Gerry will be out there almost all day. I'm going to be at the tailgate most of the day. Gerry actually has some work to do because of all the recruits coming onto campus. He's going to be hanging out over near Newhouse, probably checking in on who's coming in. But please join us if you would. Anybody and everybody, welcome to the tailgate. It's been fun. We have a TV out there, watching a little football beforehand. Gerry and I will be doing a live stream for about 30 to 45 minutes at around 2:30. So please feel free to come out and join us. It will be, I'm just telling you, tomorrow will be the biggest atmosphere for tailgating at Texas this year. So come join us and have some fun.
And if you're listening and want the link, I made a condensed link to make it easier on everybody. tinyurl.com/OTFUGA is the University of Georgia. And that'll take you to what Bobby is talking about. So, all right, guys, we got more questions. We got more super chats that we need to get to. Slick Rick, he says, Colin Coward said that there's a new sheriff in town stating that these small town SEC schools can't compete with the big city of Austin. Texas moving to the SEC, all that needed to happen to attract talent and get back in the mix. Your thoughts, Bobby and Gerry. And he also did say, guys, I don't know if y'all saw the clip, Texas looks bigger and stronger and faster than Alabama and Georgia.
I'm not touching that. That's rat poison right there.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you from a recruiting standpoint, I get where Colin Cowherd's going with it, but look, that's discounting Athens being an hour away from the most talented area in the country, Atlanta, greater Atlanta area. I mean, look, closer to Florida. I mean, Athens is a great college town, right? And I'm not comparing Texas and Georgia, but right now, I mean, Alabama's got a really good class under Kalen DeBoer. Bobby was in Tuscaloosa last year. But, you know, Athens being an hour from Atlanta, all that talent there, I look at it a little bit differently. Now, I think it's impactful with some recruits, but what if you don't have their major? Kevin Wynn. Texas is having to battle that with a kid, Kevin Wynn. So I think it's easy to say that, and I get where he's going with that from a recruiting standpoint. All the companies that are in Austin, everybody that has hubs in Austin, I get it. But I think recruiting goes a little deeper than that, honestly.
Well, I mean, if that were the case, why isn't USC always a great program? The reality of it is there is inherent positives that come with being in Austin, including NIL opportunities with those companies and others, the national brand that is Texas compared to, say, a Texas A&M or Oklahoma or something. But what I would say as it relates to that, I think Texas does have some inherent advantages. The negative is I don't necessarily think that Texas is bigger, faster, stronger than Georgia right now. I mean, you're going to see some dudes on this football field on Saturday from both sides. I mean, and that is one of the things that I keep going back to when I talk about a big-time matchup. You know, those Texas Tech and TCU teams, they may have had 15 to 20, 10 to 15 NFL players. Georgia may have 35 to 40.
Yeah.
So it's a different, I mean, that's the part that I think that Texas, no matter whether or not Georgia's playing well or not, they've got dudes coming out their ears. So not saying they have any great, I don't know the greatness of their players at this point to that level, but I'm just telling you, Texas isn't bigger, faster, stronger than Georgia. They may be faster at spots. They may be whatever, but they're, as a whole, these two teams are very, very even athletically. Very even.
And I think for the Texas fans that are in our chat that go to the game, they're going to come back on Monday and say, yeah, that was the first team that we've seen that could athletically, physically go toe-to-toe with Texas this season. I mean, because Michigan lost too much. Georgia's that. You don't recruit top 1, 2, 3 ranked classes for as long as they have and not look as good walking out on the field, not be as athletic, not be as fast. They are all that. I'm still waiting to see them play like up to that, but they are that when they come out onto the field. That, make no mistake, this is a talent neutralized situation Saturday for me. Now, what happens, that comes down to, some people are talking about culture, which that's really being tested with Georgia this year to see if it's still going in the right direction or not. And then execution. And that's where home field's big in these games. I really believe home field's big. So the Texas fan base can have an impact on the outcome of this game if Texas executes early and can keep the crowd lively in this game. If Georgia gets up a couple of scores early in this game, that changes the home field advantage for a while. That's why I think it's really, we talked about fast start against Oklahoma, which Texas didn't have, but Oklahoma couldn't do anything with it offensively. Georgia can. Like, Texas can't give Georgia the ball at the Texas 47 and midfield and the 40 the first three series, else they will be down 10 points more than likely. Because Georgia will score. They will score, put points on the board. They're a legitimate offense with legitimate players. But I do think the Texas fan base say that was what makes this game amazing is that was two unbelievably talented football teams on the field going at it. And even when you went up to Michigan, and New York, Michigan wasn't the same Michigan as last year from a talent standpoint. They lost too much. This Georgia team is loaded with talent. Whether they play up to it or not, we'll find out Saturday. They haven't this year.
Not all the way through, at least. They have in spurts.
In spurts.
All right, our next one comes from WTP Sports Dudes. Super chat. Thank you, WTP. He says, is Texas 150-plus rushing yards a good enough stat to win?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, by the way, this is a good time to mention this. Texas gave up 150 to Mississippi State, right?
Yeah.
Georgia gave up I think Georgia gave up 78 or 87. I can't remember, to Mississippi State a week later. Or 2 weeks later. So I would tell you that Georgia's run defense probably, if the transitory probably a little bit better than Texas's run defense against an even team. So I don't know that Texas is going to get to 150. Would it be, if it happened, would it be enough to win? The answer is yes, it would be.
Because that would mean Texas is not Sark's completely controlling the football game.
Yes.
Sark doesn't lose when he completely controls a football game.
No.
And then we have Kevin here with the super chat. He says, good morning, guys. Pre-1K subscriber here. Wow. That's awesome. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But guys, if the Texas defense plays to the same level against Georgia, do y'all think we're in jeopardy to losing Nansen or PK, if not both? Look
on. PK is interesting. I think he just wants to be a defense coordinator, man. I mean, I think he's had his go and has decided he likes the X's and O's and that drill. Nansen probably has head coaching aspirations. There was some talk that he would be up for the job at Arizona last year after Jed Fish left to go to Washington. So I think that would be the one. But I will add this. He hasn't had that chance quite yet. So we'll see where that goes. But I don't know if it's totally dependent on this game against Georgia either. Right. Those are going to be cumulative effects. Now, they may put him on a higher pedestal for a Nansen, for example, if Texas does something somewhat exotic and it has his fingerprints all over it, right? But in general, I don't think so. Kevin, by the way, that makes, if you were here in the pre-1000 range, that makes you an OG, a true OG.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Appreciate you. I appreciate a lot of you guys. I met some people last night that listened to us in the morning as well over at the Hole in the Wall stuff, and just enjoyed meeting you guys and touching base.
Hey, David Keith Williams has one for Mayo Hamilton, which I am. I'm not sure what impact Justin Williams has had for Georgia this season. Nonetheless, as a Texan, I really hope UT beats Georgia, makes him regret his decision. What's your view? I will say this. Justin Williams and Joseph Jonah Ajanye, the teammates from Oak Ridge. And speaking with somebody at Georgia this summer, they thought the early returns of both those guys are going to be like first or second round level players coming out in 3 years. So we'll see. They both had a little impact. They both played, but Justin Williams more, obviously. But from what I was told, Georgia loves both of those guys. But to your point, I mean, Texas was the only school that really had a chance after he picked Justin Williams, Georgia over Oregon. Jeff Choate went to a game last year. I happened to be at that game when Oak Ridge was playing. And, you know, Texas almost got him on campus, but they were really locked in with Georgia. Him and Joseph Jonah Ajanye even more so than Justin Williams was.
Hey, Gerry, people are wanting to know, did you actually challenge, did you win a game of paper football? Did you challenge Bert Auburn yesterday?
Well, you know, we did not play, but Bert had 2 kicks at it. And the first one, he undercut and hit the table, I think. The second one, he ripped it pretty good. So it's on the show from last night. If you go watch when Bert was on there at the end, he was kicking the paper football, but there was so much going on there. We did not play a game of paper football, but he now has played paper football a little himself. So we'll see if there's ever an opportunity. We're going to let him get he's a lefty, by the way, Bobby.
Yep.
You know, I didn't expect that because he kicks it right-footed. So then when he broke out the left hand on paper football, I was like, whoa, okay, ambidextrous guy. That's a good thing to be.
And did y'all go into his history as a kicker last night? I want to give that to folks if they haven't
Not
heard.
really, not on the show.
Yeah, he said he told me and Gerry pre-show that he started by playing soccer, totally normal type of thing. Started by playing soccer, and then when it got to football time in 7th grade, I believe, he started playing kicker and actually doing pretty good. And then in 9th grade, he gave up soccer and focused on being a kicker his entire the rest of his career, and started getting specific training for football kicking. And then within a month after Jeff Banks and Steve Sarkisian got to Austin, he got a call from Jeff Banks, and Bert had not chosen a school at that point. And Banks said, hey, look, I want you to come try and be a preferred walk-on here at the University of Texas. And Bert said that was all I needed to hear, and I was going to Texas. So that's the origin story, I guess, of sorts for Bert Auburn, the ginger, curly-haired guy from Flower Mound.
That's crazy. I never knew that. Interesting stuff there. Stuff you can only find on Texas or at On Texas Football and on TexasFootball.com. And speaking of, guys, I'm going to let Gerry tell you why it's so great. But if you haven't become a member, promo code OTFOG, $39.95 for 1 year on TexasFootball.com. Take it away, Gerry.
Yeah, look, on TexasFootball.com, updated a little recruiting story this morning. We're on there a lot when we're not on here. So come join in, make fun of me. That's a good place to make fun of me. I'm all in for that. It's fun. I like to have fun with that stuff. So Joe Z on the chat does a great job. He keeps the community rolling over there with all this assortment of Dan Lanning pictures and recruiting, which I'm a fan of, and Texas A&M pictures and things such as that. So y'all come in, join us. We have a lot of fun over there, man. Mike Gosnell said, gird up your loins in recruiting this weekend. That's what we're doing at OnTexasFootball.com. Come be an OTF OG member, and I'll see you over there. You can make fun of me as much as you want. We'll have fun with it because I've been made fun of plenty in this business.
Gerry, this is from Jackson S. Where are y'all partying on 6th if we win? I've got post-game duties, but Gerry, you may be.
No, I got post-game duties. I got post-game duties. I am too old. My Achilles are screaming for me to just cycle and maybe play golf, but no, nothing else.
I'm a Shakespeare's guy on 6th Street when I go to 6th Street. I haven't been in probably a couple of years, but when I do go, I go to Shakespeare's.
Oh man!
Hey, by the way, I forgot this. What else comes with your OTF OG membership? Obviously, Hellman's mayonnaise for your corn dogs.
Oh, God. That's terrible. We're trying to get people to come join the community, not
Yes,
turning them away.
Hey, step out of your comfort zone. Try something new.
Yeah. Out of
Or
your
don't.
comfort zone, all right.
That's one case where you don't have to. Bobby with the super chat. He says, Gerry, how do you not get burned out chasing down 17 and 18-year-olds with all the miles driven, etc.?
I think it's my favorite part of this business and has been for years. And I don't know if it's because I grew up kind of in coaches' offices because my dad coached, and I'd go to games on Friday when him and the staff, wherever he's coaching, would go scout games. And like, that's the first time I ever saw Casey Hampton play as a sophomore. I was like, whoa, this guy's a little different. So I don't know. I like doing that. The coolest thing about this job, and I know Bobby can say the same thing, is, it's allowed me to go see the country.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about all the places I've been. I don't think I'd ever gone to Nike headquarters without Elite 11. I just don't think I would have. And, Disney Wide World of Sports and all the things around the ESPN and the Under Armour game. But just going to see Jadeveon Clowney in high school at Rock Hill, man, when would I have gone to Rock Hill? I mean, so it's been awesome. It allows me to go around and see and like I said, like the last trip through Georgia, this is what makes it fun. Hometown of Herschel Walker. 45 miles later, hometown of Harvey and Horace Grant. So me going from Greene County High School to Savannah, I'm going through these places and I'm seeing where these guys came from. And otherwise, I've never have gone to the hometown of Herschel Walker. And all these great players you've seen, Billy Sims at hooks, right? I mean, guys that have won Heisman's, Hall of Fame players. It's taken me so many cool places. And then if I'm going to do this, and I've always said, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to talk about players to all the thousands of people that are on these message boards and whatnot, I need to be able to see them in person. Otherwise, I'm just saying the same things you are watching Huddle. What good is that? I mean, I want to give y'all a firsthand account of this stuff and say, okay, man, look, I saw the kid in person and this is what I think in person. I talked to two people around the kid when I was at the school, and this is what they had to say that maybe they wouldn't say on a phone call if you catch them on a Thursday afternoon. To me, that's just the way that you're supposed to deliver to the fans in this business.
I concur with Gerry. I have not done what Gerry is doing now for the last 15 to 20 years. I used to do it, and I didn't get burned out on doing it. It was actually the fun part of the job. Yeah. Getting on the road. And I mean, I've been to rural Louisiana, yep, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Virginia. I mean, and I've been to inner city Chicago to watch high school football. And one of the things that's fun about it, Gerry, and even, now mostly we go see good players.
Yeah.
Right. There seems to be a common thread there, no matter where you grow up or where a kid comes from. And that's that there are generally people around them that want the best for them, the successful ones. And so I've always that was one of the best things. I took a trip with my dad. I took my dad on a trip all the way up to, Maryland one time, went up the East Coast and through Atlanta to go see players, and then North Carolina and Virginia. And, it's fun. That's the kind of stuff that you enjoy and remember when you saw, I don't know, Amon Green in high school or right, Peyton Manning in high school. I mean, I saw Peyton Manning in high school. How many people can say that? Not many.
Yeah, I go back to the night, Bobby. One of my crazy times in this business is the night of Cedric Baxter's announcement in Orlando. I was on the phone about an hour before he announced with Coach Stewart at Isidore Newman. I was like, "Hey, I'm driving back. I've been in Florida. I'm going to come through I-10. Can I come stop by and watch Arch practice?" He said, "Oh, sure. Yeah. Because he had to call ahead because that was a big deal because of how out of control things could get media-wise with the Mannings." And I said, "What time do you practice?" He said, "Well, we'll be on the field at 6 a.m. And I said, "Oof." And I looked at my phone. I was like, man. So I literally drove from Orlando. I think I left at 9 or 10 that night. I can't remember. I slept an hour in one of the rest areas in Mississippi on I-10, so I could get to Arch Manning's practice at 6 a.m. The next morning. But you know what? You know what you got out of that to me is you were there and you kind of understood. If I wasn't at Cedric Baxter's deal that day and talked to Peyton Kirkland was there, talked to some people there and heard that, okay, Texas is starting to resonate in Florida a little bit more than you realize. And I was like, okay, that's good to know. And then you drive to see Arch Manning. And you know what? I saw that morning, nothing's an act. The guy sprinted from drill to drill at 6:30 in the morning, from rep to rep. Everything you saw that you've seen since that time, it's nothing that happens in an afternoon practice. It's nothing that happened once the guy got to Texas. It's the way he was at 6 in the morning at a practice. Nothing changes, whether there's people there or there's people not there.
Good stuff. Before we get on to our last few questions of the day, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone out there about BKCW, and then we're going to revisit Gerry's recruiting for a second.
And we need to talk about the injury update for people that joined just in the last 30, 45 minutes too, because Texas put that out as well. BKCW is the business insurance of choice. They are sponsoring On Texas Football. If you've had a frustrating insurance or employee benefits renewal, that's coming up for a lot of you guys now at the end of the year on the horizon. Please give BKCW a chance to earn your business. They take your business out of the insurance trap by providing you with actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting. Operating out of its headquarters in Austin and owned by a UT grad, BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's weak spots, design a plan, execute it, monitor your situation throughout the year so that you can lower your insurance costs and effectively manage your company's risk and employee benefits. BKCW has risk consultants that specialize in many different fields, from construction and transportation companies to nonprofits, restaurant groups, school districts. So you'll get matched up with someone who knows your risks and can help you escape the insurance trap. Get started with a free risk assessment at bkcw.com. Send an email to info@bkcw.com or give them a shout at 512-250-5055. That's 512-250-5055. Thanks again, BKCW, for making coffee and football on Friday mornings possible.
All right. We're going to, like I said, go back real quick because we had a follow-up question for you, Gerry, regarding your travel. Douglas Scott wants to know, how often do you change vehicles? Do you lease?
No lease, man. That would be about every 4 years. About every 4 years, maybe 3.5. By the way, I wanted to say
you got to talk to South Point Dodge about that, by the way.
Yeah, we should, for sure. By the way, I wanted to say this. I know we're Georgia, Texas football, and that is number 1, 2, 3, up to 10 and 20 or whatever, however high you want to count. Texas TCU basketball scrimmage in San Antonio, 10 a.m. Saturday. Closed door scrimmage, first scrimmage of the year for Texas hoops. Texas women obviously are about to get rolling as well. Season's not too far off. Then Texas has a closed door against Colorado the weekend of the 26th that Saturday in Austin as a return from Texas going to Denver last year. So hoops is not far off. Tony Bennett retired out of the blue yesterday at Virginia. A lot of the top college basketball coaches have retired, but I wanted to mix that in. I know we're all football right now, but basketball's right around the corner too. The closed door scrimmages, secret scrimmages begin tomorrow for the Horns.
I'll add this because we're trying to get Jared Elliott on the show soon, the women's volleyball coach. They've got 2 big matches this weekend. They play Arkansas tonight. If you're in town and want something to do on Friday night, check out Gregory Gym. The women's volleyball team, I think, gets started at 7 against Arkansas. And then Sunday, they're playing against Georgia. So they've got 2 matches this weekend. The team is now 10-3 on the season, ranked number 7 in the country. I think they've won 9 in a row. They've made some changes to their lineup, as well as I think one of the new setters they brought in is starting to gel with some other players, is what I'm being told from some folks that follow volleyball very hard, very heavily. Bierce is one of those guys on the message boards.
A couple things there, Blake, real quick. Rob Enfield's asked a couple times, is Sadir Mitchell hurt? Not to our knowledge. I think you will see if he makes his return. And somebody he also asked about Malik Murphy and Duke. Malik's had look, the last 2 games for Malik have been important. He hadn't had a turnover because his first 6 starts in college football, he had an interception, I believe 9 or 10 turnovers. He has cut no interceptions the last 2 games, which I think is big for Malik Murphy because the decision-making, as he continues to get more experience, that's what he's going to have to do. But I do believe I think they were off last week and they're at FSU tomorrow, I believe.
No, tonight.
Sorry.
How about this? What if I told you a year ago? What if I told you it was 5-1 Duke versus 1-5 Florida State? 5-1 Duke versus 1-5. 1-5. I told y'all. I mean, the last thing you want is a one-hit wonder. Mike Norvell's singing that tune, baby. Tainted Love for him. That's it. He got one hit.
I mean, you know what makes the season worse is if Manny Diaz comes in, the former Miami head coach, by the way, and beats FSU at Duke.
Manny Diaz started people don't remember. I talked to Manny Diaz first time ever when he was a GA at Florida State, Gerry. And he was the linebacker GA for Chuck Amato, who ended up being a head coach at Florida State. But Manny was in charge of recruiting Miami for Chuck Amato and helping him down there. So he's got a little special place in his heart for Florida State.
All right, so we got a lot of people asking you. Of course, you mentioned the Sadir thing, but a lot of people wanting to know about Bond. And so I'm going to bring that back up here. This is the availability report put out by Texas and the SEC last night. And Bond, of course, listed as probable.
Yeah, a couple of things I mentioned at the outset that bear are worth repeating on this. Isaiah Bond moved from questionable to probable. Great news, right? Assuming he doesn't retweak the ankle, which is something that can and will happen at times. But Bond moves from questionable to probable. Georgia, and now as far as they're concerned, Jared Wilson, one of their starting offensive linemen, the center, has moved from questionable to probable. That means he is very likely to play. Now, Tate Ratledge, their All-American guard, remains questionable. So Georgia may be getting a shot in the arm on the offensive line because Wilson missed last week as well. They did lose a running back here, Branson Robinson. He was one of their top 2 running backs, but frankly, Georgia has as good, if not better, running back depth than Texas. They've got a young freshman that is a potential star in the making. Last name Frazier. I can't remember his first name, Gerry. But they also have Travis Etienne's brother that is there for him as well.
Couple things too. That will be interesting to see if Tate Ratledge tries to give it a go. That would mean he's 3 weeks ahead of schedule. And I wanted to mention this. Zane Petty hit it. Smile Mondon not playing. He's the best coverage linebacker for Georgia. Watch to see if Sark attacks who replaces him.
If he can.
Yeah.
I mean, got to have pass protection.
Yeah. I mean, pass protection to me is number 1 in this game. I think that's number 1 for Texas in this game. But then you also see Jared Wilson back at center, obviously. Jordan Hall, some Texas fans will remember him. I actually went to see him at Westover in Jacksonville because Texas was trying to get him on campus, never could. He is a really talented player. Georgia really likes him a lot. This will be his first action of the season, so that adds another body to their defensive interior Saturday. He's really talented. See him in person, guys. If that guy's not an NFL player, he was injured a lot.
All right, guys, we got just a couple more super chats before we get out of here, and I'm going to start with the comments. Damon Graham says, it's great to see you guys last night at Hole in the Wall. My daughter thought you guys were great. Hook 'em.
Thank you, Damon. Great to see you, man. Thanks
it was fun.
For those that don't know, Damon, former high school defensive coordinator. So if you got any football, throw questions his way. He'll talk to you in the chat.
There you go. And then Jeff Carey says, this is why I have a man crush on Gerry. He knows how to pick, or I know how to pick. I don't know if he's saying he knows how to pick or you know.
I think he's saying he knows.
Somebody knows how to pick.
Thank you very much for that, Jeff.
And then our last one for today, guys, from Jose. Thank you, Jose. He says, Good morning, Gerry and Bobby from San Diego. I don't know how West Coast people get up this early for the show. What does Quinn's stat line need to be for a win?
Bobby, I'll let you address that one from vacation last year. That's an early wake-up call for the show.
I was 5 days in a row in San Diego doing the show from out there. I will say this, waking up with the ocean crashing in the background, not a bad thing, by the way. So beautiful area of the country in San Diego. What does Quinn's stat line need to be? I think it's got to be, if Texas is going to win, it's going to have to be 250 to 300 plus. I mean, I think they're going to have to move it through the air. The biggest stat line that I think is the most important, Gerry, is touchdowns and interception ratio. 3-0 needs to be the number. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no fumbles. That sounds to me like a possible Texas win if he doesn't turn the ball over. So I think stat line 250, 275, 300 plus, 3-0. Really need to see Quinn take care of the football while being accurate. Hey, this one from Colton. I want to mention this one too real quick because we were actually visiting with someone who coached Dylan Bell in high school last night. He was over at the Hole in the Wall. What's the deal? Colton asked, what's the deal with Dylan Bell? Is he bitter that Texas didn't offer? Is this drama mostly fabricated?
No.
It's one of those situations. I'll let Gerry talk about it. Go for it, Gerry.
Yeah, I actually went over to Kincaid his senior year because when we had heard that Texas may make a run at him. And what I learned there was very, very pro University of Texas family and fans. And so, no, I think that's absolutely real there. I think if Texas had come in early on Dylan Bell and offered him, he absolutely would have been a Texas Longhorn.
Hey, I've got to say the other pieces of this. The freshman class at Kincaid High School.
Great job on this, Bobby. This is awesome.
Yeah, of all the high schools in the state of Texas, Kincaid High School is one of the wealthiest there is out there. And it's probably the wealthiest in the city of Houston. I may be wrong these days, but there are 3 guys in the freshman class at Kincaid High School that have a pedigree few will have. First is Vince Young's son.
Yeah.
He's on the football team at Kincaid. He was at wide receiver. He moved to quarterback, apparently on the 9th grade team. The reason he was not playing quarterback is because another former Texas player's son was the quarterback, and that's Shea Marin's was the quarterback there. He got injured apparently this year. And then last but not least, the former NBA player, Rashard Lewis, his son's a 9th grader at Kincaid as well. Apparently he, though, is focused solely on basketball. Rashard Lewis, a first-round draft pick straight out of high school, I believe.
Out of Elsick, yep.
Yeah, and so those are 3 pretty good freshman legacies at a single high school.
And for those that don't know, Vince's son, basketball is his love. So we'll see where it goes with him. He does play football, loves basketball, works out with TJ Ford some down there in Sugar Land, Missouri City, but also plays for Rashard Lewis's AAU team with Rashard Lewis's son. So that Kincaid's got some really talented kids in that freshman class for sure. And that's not even getting into baseball. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have one other super chat that just came in before we get out of here. Dennis says, how is Napier keeping his commits while FSU gets hammered?
He's not having as bad a year as FSU. I mean, he was expected to have a bad year coming into this season. FSU was debating whether or not they were going to win the ACC. There was no winning the SEC talk in Florida. So expectations is driving a lot of that, I think, Dennis. Failed to meet expectations.
By the way, think about this too. That's a good way to get out of here for college football in general. Before the season, we were wondering how bad Florida State would beat Billy Napier and if he'd be the head coach at the end of the year.
Yeah. Florida's
going to go into Tallahassee and beat them at the end of the year. And Billy Napier could get fired the next day still. That's pretty wild where we're at in those two teams this year.
Yeah. Florida, by the way, has a big game this weekend from that perspective.
Yeah.
Okay. They play Kentucky. They host Kentucky this weekend.
Yep.
They lose to Kentucky, who just lost to Vanderbilt at home. I don't know. But they are going to Derek Lagway, the young man out of Willis. That's the true freshman, in light of Graham Mertz, their former quarterback's season-ending injury for the Gators.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. I want to thank them along with Factor, Tecovas, and BetterHelp, all for sponsoring today's show. Thank you all for tuning in. The great question, Super Chat. Bobby, I know y'all will be back on later. You'll be on throughout the weekend, action-packed weekend right here on Texas Football. So one more time, give everybody the rundown on that.
Yeah, absolutely. 3 o'clock today, Gerry, myself, and CJ Vogel will be live from the co-op. Hopefully, if you guys want to get some gear before you head out to the game tomorrow or tailgate tomorrow, you'll come out and visit with Gerry, myself, and CJ. We got a live show from 3 to 4. Then we also have a bunch of other stuff. Gerry's going to be reporting on some recruiting news today. A bunch of kids coming into Texas a day before the game for the entire weekend. We've got a bunch of that going on, as well as tomorrow. We have the Saturday conversation starting at 7 o'clock. Myself, CJ, and Rod talk a little Texas football. We got the pregame tailgate at 2:30. We also have the in-game watch with us, Aaron Hogan, Jerry Hamilton involved there. And then clearly we'll be back on post-game, hopefully with a burnt orange tower in the background tomorrow night.
Hey, Blake, I wanted to say when we get right before we get out of here, Mitchell W's asked a few times on Quinn during practice this week. I've heard nothing other than he's had a good week. I mean, now what does that mean come Saturday? We'll see. But he's had a good week, healthier this week than last week.
There you go. All right. Thank you for that, Gerry. Well, everyone have a safe weekend. Hopefully a super exciting weekend. Hopefully we'll be back Monday with great celebration, great news, all that good stuff. So for Bobby Burton and Gerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Enjoy M&M, Blake.